Hello, 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 and welcome back to my channel. Or if it's your first time here, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about the makings of a narcissist. Believe it or not, a narcissist just don't wake up like this. There is a formula that goes into the makings of a narcissist. So, what happens is there's a nice recipe and a secret sauce that goes into a narcissist that consists of childhood trauma and genetics. What happens is their inner child gets destroyed during childhood. They have core wounds, just like the empath that they often are attracted to. A lot of times their core wounds match, which is why they have this magnetic attraction. At some point in childhood, they felt worthless and powerless, which had this effect on them that made them want to kind of be. They also blamed God for their misfortunes, and they made it up in their minds to become their own God. And they took a dark path, but they decided, they would become their own God above the law and take all the power, even though it's just something that they constructed in their mind. Nobody has all the power, but they think they do. They think they're in control. They think they have all the power. It's a false self that they construct as a result of childhood trauma, a destroyed inner child. And actually, what happens when when they go through that ongoing childhood trauma is there's a gray matter in the center of the brain that actually they have an actual gray matter deficit in their brain. So basically, when they're going through that ongoing trauma, it literally causes a change in their brain, and that gray matter is what controls empathy, or that's what's responsible for empathy. And that's why they have a disconnect from empathy, and they don't know how to have empathy. They literally are disconnected. That part of them is broken. It's just like if you have an electrical cord, you plug it into the wall, you got, juice, you have electricity. But if you go take a pair of pliers and you cut the cord, it's disconnected. Your TV is not going to work anymore, or whatever you have plugged into the wall is not going to work anymore because it's disconnected. Well, they're disconnected from empathy. And all they can do is manufacture what they think empathy is supposed to look like. So they might watch movies, they might study it in other people, they might like study your expressions, they might study the words that you say when you're empathizing or what they think it looks like, and they'll manufacture it, they'll imitate it. But it's not real because they are literally disconnected, like that electrical cord is cut, and it's because of a physical defect. They literally have a deficiency in gray matter in their brain that is responsible for empathy. I know I'm repeating myself, but just trying to make that point sink in. They literally are disconnected from empathy, and that's what makes them so monstrous. Because the ability to be able to feel someone else's pain is so important and so vital. When you don't have that, it can make you a much worse person. Like me, I am an empath. I mean, I can't even look at movies that have gore. I can't watch someone get injured. You know how people can watch these shows where people are falling on their heads or landing and breaking bones and people are laughing at it. I can't. I cannot. I literally physically feel the injury of another person when I see it because my empathy is so strong. But a narcissist cannot. They cannot relate. They can't feel it. They're disconnected, like that power cord when it got cut. And so there's a combination of that. There's, like I said, the severely wounded inner child, and then there's a combination of genetics. So basically, A narcissist may go through some traumatic childhood events, and an empath might go through the same exact childhood, but come out different because they're wired differently. They have different genetics. So they might come out of that same situation the narcissist went through and come out an empath. Because everybody is genetically different. We're all wired different. If you ever study DNA and look at our genetic codes, everyone has, we're like little computers that we have these codes, and everything in our body is coded different from the next person. From your eye color, your hair color, of course, your skin color, whether or not you're susceptible to high blood pressure, hypertension, whether or not you're susceptible to certain types of cancers. I mean, the list goes on and on. Whether or not you can handle stress well. That's actually coded into your DNA. So there's so many different factors. So the way one person emerges from that traumatic event in childhood versus the way another person emerges from a traumatic event in childhood are going to be vastly different. So this narcissist went through a traumatic childhood, had a different wiring, and again had that deficiency in brain matter after going through that. And that left them being unable to empathize. And you can't get that back. And that's why, you'll hear psychologists, psychiatrists, and so forth say narcissists can't be cured. It's not to be mean or not to be evil, but literally they have brain damage. You can't go back in and put that part of their brain back. It's gone. Just like kind of with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's eats your brain. It literally eats your brain. I'm dealing with my mother. She has dementia. It's eating her brain. There's spots on her brain when she went through and got the MRI. I think that's what it's called, or CAT scan. You can see spots of her brain are missing. It's what it looks like, little black spots on her brain. Well, that's what happens, with a narcissist. Their brain is changed, like physically changed. So it's not to be mean or say people can't change or people can't be cured, but it's really hard when you have a physical change to your brain that has occurred because of this extreme trauma and in the combination with your genetics. Okay, I hope I'm making sense. I don't want to keep explaining that, but I just want to go into 2 examples of narcissists that have been in my life and what their childhoods looked like. And then it will kind of explain how people can become narcissists. And that explained to me why they became narcissists. The funny thing is, these 2 examples I'm going to use are both in law enforcement. They both chose that profession. And you will see narcissists in law enforcement. I'm not going to say they're both police officers or both. I'm not going to say exactly what they do. Well, if you watch my other videos, you'll figure it out. But they're in that profession, general profession, right? So sample number 1. He was literally given up for adoption with all of his siblings. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, his grandmother took them on. She tried to take the role like most grandmothers do when the parents couldn't. And I can't remember the details if the mom was in jail or something. The father wasn't around. But anyway, the grandmother had him and then she died. So then they all went into foster care. And then they ended up just bouncing from foster home to foster home to foster home to foster home like nobody ever wanted him. Then when he grew up, went into the military, and became successful, his father wants to come back around the bend and claim him and be a part of his life and brag about his successes. Oh, I have a son. Well, by then, the damage was done. He was a discard. He grew up in numerous foster homes. He was neglected. He was abandoned. He was shuffled around like he felt useless and worthless. I don't want to say too much, but that was enough to cause a severely damaged inner child. So he definitely grew up to be, I want to say, more of a covert narcissist. He wasn't like a grandiose narcissist, but definitely a covert narcissist. I'm not going to say definitely. I'm going to say most likely. I like to use the words definitely sometimes when I shouldn't. Most likely covert narcissist. And it was so funny when I realized he was disconnected from empathy. I'll give you the example. One day, we were hanging out and I had the worst stomach ache. I have problems, that were a result of my childhood trauma. I have a lot of health problems, um, like IBS. I have IBS. I have fibromyalgia, things like that. So my IBS was acting up. Not unusual for me. I pretty much have it under control because I've made a lot of diet changes and I'm a lot healthier now mentally, which makes you healthier physically. But I digress. So it was so kind of strange that this was acting up, but it was when I was around him because he lived out of town and he was here for the weekend and we were hanging out and it was just acting up really bad. And I thought, why is this happening now? Like I've been fine. I think my intuitiveness was kicking in. I was kind of feeling like something was off with him and it was making my stomach uncomfortable. Now that I look back on it, and because I'm very intuitive, and so anyway, we had all these plans that day, and I was like, I can't do anything until I get to the drugstore and get something for the stomach. So he was like, okay. And it was kind of weird because I could tell he could not relate at all. And I could tell that he didn't have empathy about the situation. You can tell. Normally a person would suggest, "Are you going to be okay? Do you want to go home and lay down? Do you want to take a rain check?" He was just kind of like, "Okay, we'll go to the drugstore." Like it was nothing, and I was like literally bent over in severe pain. I felt like I was gonna die, but it was so weird. Anyway, we go to the drugstore. We're in the drugstore, and he starts like asking these questions methodically. Well, what kind of medicine do you get for this? Do you get this kind of medicine? Do you get that kind of medicine? Like these strange questions. I'm like, well, I don't know. I don't know. I just need something to calm it down for now, so we can get through the day. And he was just, what about this? What about that? And he was trying to be engaged with me, but it was just so strange, and I felt like it was forced instead of maybe just hanging out at the end of the aisle, let me get what I need to get, and kind of, I don't know. It was just really strange. So we get to the front of the store. I'm ready to make my purchase. And then he's standing there. He turned around and looked at me. He said, see, now I'm going to tell you his profession. He said, see, they say that police officers don't have empathy, but I have empathy, don't I? I have empathy. And I looked at him and I thought, okay, I've never said police officers don't have empathy. I have friends that are police officers that do have empathy. I mean, they might have a bad reputation at times, but I don't generalize and make stereotypes like that. So I don't know where that came from. I'm thinking someone must have told him he doesn't have empathy at some point, and that's why he's trying to manufacture this empathy at this point because I'm sick. B, do you think standing there asking me what kind of medicine I need to choose is showing me empathy for my stomach ache? That's not how you show empathy. Like, oh, do you take this medicine or that medicine? Okay, we'll try this. That's not empathy. He thought that's what empathy was. It was so bizarre, and that we didn't date that long because I was seeing too many red flags pointing to narcissism, and then I knew his background, and the flag just kept popping up. But that was one day that I saw the lack of empathy, and he did have lack of empathy throughout that whole day. Like he could not relate to the fact that I was in severe pain. Maybe because he was a soldier. I was making all these excuses, but I was thinking, no, he's disconnected from it. He's disconnected from being able to feel or identify with the fact someone else is in pain, like physical pain. It was so bizarre, but makes sense because he was a narcissist. He tried his best to drum up some empathy that day, but he couldn't. And there's other times where I could see he just didn't have it, and he wasn't good at manufacturing it either. So anyway, and to understand that he had a deficiency in his brain, like it's not coming back. The empathy's not coming back ever. You can't therapy the empathy into his brain. You can't take Play-Doh and like reach in his brain and patch it back up. It's like it's gone. It's disconnected like that electric cord. You went and cut the energy source off. Like it's gone. So that's that. The other malignant narcissist, watch my videos, you'll figure out who I'm talking about. The malignant narcissist had a childhood to where his father was a drug addict and abandoned him. And his mother, he felt, these were his feelings he voiced to me. He felt his mother favored his siblings over him. So he had that wound of feeling not enough, the not enough wound, the unseen wound. And part of that probably was because he was abandoned by his father. I went through that again, but I came out of that situation as an empath. He came out as a narcissist because his genetics are different. He's wired different. And the dynamics of his family were different. So that he really, really had that in his mind that he was the least favored. And I don't honestly can't say if that was true or not. I would say the way he acted and was as a person, he was not a very nice person. So if she did favor the other children, I couldn't even blame her. Really, I mean, that's a terrible thing to say. You should love all your children equally, but and maybe she does. I'm not saying she doesn't. This is what he was saying. So that was something he was dealing with in his mind, not feeling adequate. So, and whatever other traumas he went through as a child led him with this severe narcissism where he had to be his own God. He had felt like he was above the law. He felt like he had to rage to get attention. He felt an extreme fear of abandonment to where he constantly had to have a backup plan, meaning he could never be alone. So he was a chronic cheater, So, and empathy, again, narcissists can't empathize. So, pretty sure he didn't have any real empathy, not the things he did to me. There's no way he could have had empathy. He did the things he did to me. So anyway, I just wanted to bring those two examples to the forefront of how a traumatic childhood can mold a person or help mold a person into a narcissist. But that's not the only thing that does it. Again, it's a combination of genetics. It's a combination of effects to your brain that trauma does. It's just a recipe. We're all walking recipes of our past. Like I said, I went through several traumas as a child. I'll probably make videos about all of it at some point. And I ended up a severe empath and a narcissist magnet. That's what happened to me. That's what those little sprinkle a little bit of this and pour a little bit of that, and I ended up a little empath, and some of us don't end up like that. So it's kind of interesting to look at the past, look at the progression of their life, and look at their family genetics and look at everything and kind of see what made the narcissist, or what is the making of a narcissist. So I hope that this made sense. Just making this super quick video just to give you two little examples. I know that if you make videos too long, you kind of lose your audience, but hopefully that will be helpful information for you all today and help you see, you know, possible red flags in the future. You know, I've always been the type to kind of want to fix or I had the wounded bird syndrome. Oh, you've been hurt before. Let me help you. I've been hurt too. You know, you have those matching wounds. You want to fix each other. You know, but hurt people hurt people. It's just a recipe for disaster. Anyway, that's all I want to say today. Thanks for listening. Hope you made it to the end. If you like, please like, comment, subscribe, share if you feel the need to share. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please list them below. Thank you very much for stopping by. See you next time.